Are you?
All right, welcome to the 17th episode of the Next Man Up podcast. I'm here with both Rich and Adam. I feel like it's been a while since we've had the whole crew together. What's up, fellas?
Yeah, totally. Good to be back.
Yeah, super fun. Hello,
I
fam.
was gonna
What's
say,
up?
I was
like, is Rich on
maybe
like a
not.
5
Maybe
minute
we
time
only
delay?
have Adam. Yeah, I was just say, man, you made me look real bad back there. You really hung me off to dry. I was like,
Rich
we're
is like
finally
one of
all
those.
back, and Rich
He's
just
like one
took
of those
the word.
reporters that's like 5 minutes later, like, "Hello, yes, I'm here,
Hello, this
reporting
is me.
from Arkansas or some shit that nobody
Yeah.
cares about."
I missed my cue. Sorry.
Yeah. It's all
Anyway.
good, man. I had to start writing in a cue for you or something, but I thought maybe your name would be a pretty easy one to
Just hold up
remember.
a card. Talk now, Rich.
Please speak.
Well,
Anyway.
normally I have my wife with cue cards like behind the screen here.
Oh, really? Damn. I didn't know Maria
No, that was
integral. I mean, or to the pod, I know she's integral to your life because, I mean, if you dressed yourself today, that would explain that horrendous sock shirt.
I think that's also the first time that Rich wasn't wearing a Bears shirt when we were doing a
I know.
pod.
I think it is since we've been on camera. That's why I'm impressed. It's still keeping to the Chicago sports theme.
I wanted to keep the jersey thing going, but I got lazy today.
Oh, you haven't done laundry yet this month?
No, laundry's done. I just didn't switch shirts. Yeah.
Speaking of laundry, I just moved into a new apartment. I have a washer dryer hybrid. Just washed some shorts. They're as wrinkled up as humanly possible. Like, I don't understand how that's even possible. So any tips on using a washer dryer like hybrid, like anyone who's got one of those in their apartment, feel free to hit us up in the comments. I know that's not sports related, but like, it feels like a fucking sport trying to get my clothes not fucking wrinkled when they come
Competitive
out.
Folding of wrinkly laundry. That'll be in the Olympics, like 2024 or something.
Anyway, this is some of our best banter. You really showed up today, but that's a good segue to two guys who didn't show up. Rich, is this a good enough cue for you to?
Yes. So first topic that we're gonna do. Speaking of people not showing up and doing stuff, we got Stephon Gilmore and Aaron not showing up to mandatory OTAs.
Yeah.
So
what does OTAs stand for those of us at home and me, mostly me, that don't know what that means?
Good question.
Oh my God!
Do you actually not know what it stands for? It's not meant to put you on
team. It's optional team.
No, but how do you have a manual optional team?
Mandatory
optional.
No, they just say it. It stands for what it stands for, but they just put mandatory in front of it because I don't know. It's the NFL. They're kind of dumb sometimes.
Fuck it,
but
man.
Anyways, it's optional team. I think it's like optional team activity.
Maybe that sounds right.
Yeah, but that's what I've never understood that how you can have, because that's what I always thought OTA meant was optional team activities.
Yeah.
But how do you have a mandatory optional, like those two? That's an oxymoron.
It's like a work happy hour. Like, you don't have to go. You're not on the clock for it, but like, everybody will fucking hate you if you never go to.
But you have in these OTAs, you have to go. Otherwise, you're fined by the team. So that's mandatory.
They legit fine you, so it's not even like it's unwritten. Like, oh wow, that guy's not dedicated.
Yeah, no, like
you get fined. Wow.
No, like hundreds of thousands of dollars if you miss the entire OTA. So it's not even like it's not optional.
Well, if these players could afford to not go to the OTAs.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if OTA, okay, there you go. It actually stands for organized team activity.
Makes a lot more sense.
So when you have the optional, when they're early in the off season, they have the optional training camp, which obviously you don't have to go to at all. But then you have an organized team activity in which you have to show up.
Wow. Okay. So
there we go.
Anyways, I feel Stephon Gilmore and Aaron from last year with COVID, both those players proved how, for like veteran players, how much OTAs don't mean a goddamn thing. because both those guys had no OTAs, no preseason, and both players balled out. This is something the NFL needs to look into for the veteran players that are still playing. It should not be mandatory. These guys are still going to show up and play. All this contract nonsense, like both guys are going to be on their respective teams. I feel this is more of like a media story, like, oh, they didn't show up. Something's wrong. Things like that. It's like, no, I don't want to go to OTAs. That's a waste of my time and everything like that. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a trash move not going. I mean, it sounds the wrong message, you could argue, but by the same token, finding somebody over that, like, especially if they're like a star veteran player, like,
that's because it's in their contract. You're not only supposed to show up to your that is in the NFL's contract. You're not only supposed to go to practices and games. That includes all organized team events, which is why I should have known what OTA stood for, because I know that's how the contract reads, is that you're expected to be at all games, practices, and all organized team events and if you miss anything, you get fined.
Do you know this because you were once offered an NFL contract? Is that how you know what's?
I was, but it was not a good contract. So it was only for like $72 million, fully guaranteed, but it was with the Packers. So I said I'd rather make like an average salary
and glass and barely make the podcast on time with your long commute.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Me too. I would have done the same thing.
So, but anyway, Rich, I completely disagree with you. As a veteran player, you should want to come to these events even more. They're looking for your leadership. They're looking for you to that's why you're on the team as a veteran player, as a leader of the team. You're supposed to be the one showing these young players how to play.
It's not Aaron Rodgers' job to show Jordan Love how do you play the quarterback position.
Very much is his job. That's what being a starting quarterback and having a backup quarterback is. That's
what they did for him. That's how he got good. He was
Brett Favre did not help Aaron Rodgers at all.
Are you kidding me?
He still showed up to OTAs.
Being there. Every second he was there helped him become the player that he is today.
Right. Brett Favre never missed an OTA.
Aaron Rodgers would be the same player if Brett Favre wasn't his starter. Like, there's
not going to like an optional training camp type of thing. I understand you're getting old. You don't want to put that extra stress on your body, whatever.
But they're not physical activities, are they?
Not really. They're usually walkthroughs and learning the plays. And I mean, obviously there's like running involved and stuff. The receivers are still running routes at full speed and whatnot, but it's not like a whole ton of physical activity. As you see freak injuries happen, but that'll always happen. But they're more looking for you to learn and teach the younger players. And if you're supposed to be the leader of the team and you don't even bother to show up, then what type of leader are you?
Yeah, as a quarterback too, like you're supposed to know the playbook backwards and forwards, and guys who are new might need help with that. And that guy not being there as a resource is a bad look, dude.
Yeah, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers needs to be there for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying Gilmore needs to be there for Gilmore, but as leaders of their respective teams or at least their side of the ball for their team, they should be there to, help the younger guys, because it's any one player they're helping on the team is helping the team in general. So if they don't care enough to show up and help the team, then why are they playing for the team? Why play?
Probably true.
I don't know. I think it's overrated. OTAs for the veteran guys.
Let's do another segue about showing up. Speaking of being important to show up for your team, James Harden trying to show up for his team.
Yeah.
Maybe shortly here. I think tip-off's maybe in like a half hour.
But he's a veteran player, Rich. Why would he show up to the game? Why would he show up at all? He knows he can play. He knows he can play basketball. Why would he show up?
Okay,
James Harden's good. He won't need to show up. No, but this guy's busting his ass to come back. He's having doctors tell him not to play, and he's like, I'm playing. He's still listed as doubtful, but if it was up to him, he'd play. That's what like a true leader, a true player. That's what a true leader, a true player like wants to do. They don't ever want to sit out, whether it's OTAs or practice or watching film. They show up and they want to be there to work. They want to get better. They want to help everybody else get better. Why be on a team if you don't want to help anybody out?
if you ask Michael Jordan the best game he ever played in, it was a scrimmage that didn't count for fucking anything at the Olympics because it was for pride. So like that's true too. It's like guys who really care about winning, like they can get competitive about literally anything. Throwing quarters at a wall, shooting pool, playing a fucking scrimmage that doesn't matter. So it also, I didn't even think of that. I mean, like that's also just kind of a shot at a person's motor too. Like,
Yeah.
what does that say about your competitive nature if like you can't find some way to compete in that and to make that competitive and to get
the
your
only
team in a winning mindset?
The only people that ever sit out these events are people that do have a problem with the team that they're on, or do have a problem with the contract they're on, or there is a problem, because that's the only reason you would miss an event like that is because at the point you care more about yourself than you care about the team. It's a very selfish act in general. But talking about someone that's not selfish, James Harden's busting his ass to play. Busting his ass, like from all reports, he's out there just saying, I'm going to play. And everyone's like, he shouldn't play, or he keeps being listed as doubtful. I think that just came in this morning. He was upgraded from out. Like nobody was expecting him to play, but he does.
Yeah, I mean it's refreshing to see. I mean, you never want to see guys come back and get hurt. Like, I was questioning Anthony Davis's motor earlier, and he was able to come back and then re-injured himself. But by the same token, like, is that injury really that much more of a setback? I mean, if you were to have torn an ACL or something, I'd feel terrible about saying that he needs to be on the court. But when some of these guys dealing with like hamstring injuries and stuff, like the worst thing that will probably happen, I would guess, is that you aggravate the hamstring again, and then you have another just like nagging, lingering injury. So it's not so much that like you make it worse; you kind of just go back to square one with the same injury, kind of, from my understanding. I mean, he's got nothing to lose trying to play, and it does say a lot about him as a player. People, peg James Harden as like a selfish guy, and I think he really, really does want to win.
Yeah, I feel like that this kind of proves it. Yeah, I've had my doubts about James Harden. And again, I bring this up a lot because I'm such like a defensive guy, and he doesn't play that great defense. And that's where I think is
He's
your
underrated
chance.
on defense.
I think that's your chance to show your worth ethic for your team, and see how hard you try. Like everybody wants to score. It doesn't take kind of work ethic to score, but if you want to prove how hard you're working, for me it's your effort on the defensive end. And yeah, I think he's improved definitely.
And
On
they need his
defense.
offense though. Like that's the
Right.
thing. Kevin Durant can't do it alone. If I'll say this might be a hot take, but if, let's say you have to go to battle in a must-win playoff game with one of the three Nets stars and you only get to pick one, I would pick James Harden, because the way that team is set up, I think his playmaking ability, he's significantly better than both Durant, who's a forward and not really expected to make plays, and also Kyrie Irving, who handed over the point guard reins to him and has kind of become more of the team's shooting guard.
Sure.
But I think James Harden impacts that team when he's on the floor more than any other guy on that team. I think they had a lot of success this regular season with just him out there versus just one of the other guys out there. I think he really translates to wins with the way that he can score, but also can totally change his game based on how he's being defended and just get his teammates involved too. I mean, it's a guy who can get you 45 to 50 points, but also could get you 15 assists, and he might be able to do it in the same night sometimes. So
Yeah.
If I had to pick one of those three guys that they need, it's James Harden. So him coming back would be huge. This is a must-win game. Not saying Durant can't power them to a win. I think he's capable of that alone. But, I mean, I like their chances not only with James Harden and Durant. Obviously, those really increases your chances. But if I only had if I could only have one net superstar like on that team surrounded by the rest of the players, like I would want James Harden.
So then what does that say about Kevin Durant? Because that's always like, the Nets, Kevin Durant. He's like the best player like in the world. He's the best player. He's the best player. And now with your comments here, you're saying James Harden's better for this team specifically. So if the Nets don't win this game, what does that say about crap, I just lost his name right now.
You just
Kevin
lost
Durant.
that cue card you were reading off?
Kevin Durant. Like, what does that say about Kevin Durant? Holy crap.
I don't think it says a ton about Kevin Durant. It just says something about the way the team is constructed. And I think it's a team that plays small ball, that likes to spread the floor and kind of like spread themselves around the perimeter and kind of play isolation basketball and kick the ball out. Maybe do some pick and roll and things of that nature. But like that's a very spaced out offense that relies on driving and kicking. And I don't know, that team is just built more so for James Harden than uh, you know, Durant. But there's certainly teams you could find in the league that, have, the personnel that would make Durant a better fit than James Harden.
Yeah. I would probably still take Durant, but I would definitely take Harden over Kyrie 100%. So I think those two are neck and neck. And then, Kyrie's important. Not saying he's not, but
Yeah,
I think he's definitely out of the three by far the least important. I think there's a pretty far drop off after Harden. For me, there's not much of a drop off after Durant. I think those two guys, Harden and Durant, can easily win a championship without Kyrie.
I agree.
But I think it'd be hard for Kyrie.
Any of those two guys are still the favorite if they're fully healthy.
I think Kyrie would have a harder time winning a championship with either of the other two guys by far than those two guys would have without Kyrie. That's my opinion. But I think he's gonna play. I think a lot of people are telling him not to play. I feel like in general at this point in the season, you've played 80 games or whatever it's been up to this point. Everyone has soreness. Everyone has injuries. There's always a risk to get injured or get injured more severely. I don't think he cares. I think he's going to play.
I think the thing to remember too is like James Harden's game is so conducive to being a bit hobbled. That's a guy that's so effective offensively that like even if he lost a step or he's less explosive, I mean, he can get to the free throw line. He can pass the ball from a stationary position and hit any position on the floor with like pinpoint passes. So even if this guy's at a loss from a mobility standpoint, he's still extremely effective because he can score from all over the court. He can draw fouls and get to the free throw line where he's a great free throw shooter. And he can just see the floor. Even if he's not driving to the rim and kicking, like, he can still push the ball up the floor on like a long outlet pass, or he'll find other ways to get guys the ball. He'll find other ways to score the ball. He'll find ways to get it done with a lack of mobility. And he's not the most athletic guy in the league anyway. I mean, this is a guy that's not exactly out there dunking on people and taking off from the free throw line or anything crazy like that. He's kind of a below the rim player anyway. So I think he's a guy that could still be super effective if he's even at 80%.
Right. So what's your prediction? 1, does he play tonight? 2, does he miss any more games throughout these playoffs? And 3, who wins this series? We'll start with Rich because he hasn't said anything in a while. But he's mute, so we're not going to hear anything he says.
Rich is really putting on a
I'm still going for Milwaukee because that was my that was the team I wanted to make it to the finals. So I still think Milwaukee can pull this off, especially with a broken James Harden and not playing like Kyrie. This is like their chance. If Milwaukee cannot get it done now with like those guys out or kind of hobbling out there, like that just shows on like how much better they are compared to Milwaukee. And Milwaukee needs to they might have to retool. They're going to have to do something to.
So you're taking Bucks in how many games?
I think it's going to go all the way to 7.
And James Harden playing tonight or not?
I think James Harden is going to play tonight, but I think he's going to re-aggravate it by the 3rd or 4th quarter.
And you think he's going to miss any other games during the playoffs, which I guess for you only means the next couple of games.
Yeah. If he does come out this game, I don't see him playing the rest of this series. If they make it out of this series, I can see him coming back for the next one.
All right. Austin, what do you think?
Could you say those 3 questions again?
Yeah. Number 1, who takes the series? How many games? Number 2, Harden playing tonight? Yes or no? And 3, if he does play tonight, do you think he misses any more time during the playoffs?
Okay. I think Harden's playing tonight. I'm going to answer these in a different order because I think they were given in a different order now that I hear them again. But I think Harden's playing tonight for sure. I love his motor. I think he understands the importance of this game, it being a must-win game, because losing it would put them down 3-2 going to Milwaukee for a possible closeout game 6. So he understands the importance he needs to play. I think he'll do it. Will he re-aggravate it? Probably. I kind of agree with Rich's take. There's a possibility he re-aggravates it in this game. But if he can give them enough support to get them out to a nice lead at halftime or something, Durant can take them home for a game. And then the guy whose motor we should be questioning, Kyrie Irving with the ankle injury, I'm pretty sure those x-rays came up negative. So James Harden really just needs to play tonight, get them through this game, give them whatever he can give them, whether it's 2 quarters, 4 quarters, 1 quarter, however many minutes he can give them. They need the help tonight. And if they're not able to win this game, or Kyrie or Harden re-aggravates his injury, the guy you point to is Kyrie Irving, who I think has been the scapegoat all year. I think we all believe he's significantly lower on the totem pole than the other two. And with a negative, x-ray for, a possible broken ankle for it just being a mild sprain and having, I think 2 days off or something.
Yeah.
He should be good to play in a must-win playoff game. So it's kind of shocking that he's going to sit this one out. And I think Harden will probably re-aggravate his injury, or he'll have to sit some games out for maintenance because he's going to overexert himself tonight. But I think it's going to be enough to get them through the series if he can play, even give them 2 or 3 quarters tonight. I think it'll be enough to win this game. And then I think Kyrie Irving should be back for Game 6 and Game 7. And I think as long as Durant stays healthy and one of those other guys is out there, I think they can bring this thing home.
So you think it's going to go to 7, but Brooklyn wins it?
I think it could end in 6 if they could get this win tonight. And Kyrie Irving's able to play Game 6. I could see James Harden not playing in Game 6. I could see him, maybe being on a minutes restriction or something, and try, if they're able to tie or take the lead in the series, him to not play that game. But we'll see what happens. It's interesting to see kind of a shifting of the workload, because they have the ability to just play 2 out of their 3 guys. They've done it all year round, and I think they're all really comfortable playing that way. So it's kind of a rotating duo thing they've been doing all year. So I think it'll work. Yeah,
I think Nets take it in 6. I think they do win the next 2 in a row, and then I think James Harden will play tonight for sure. I think that's the least doubtful in my mind. And then I think Harden probably will miss a game or so down the line. Probably in this next matchup, I think he misses at least a game, and then he stays in for he doesn't miss any time during the finals, because I think they will kind of get there at this point. So yeah, I guess that's my 3 picks. Talking about another guy that is pushing to make the finals, Donovan Mitchell. Is doing some great things over in where does he play now, Rich?
He plays for the Jazz.
Okay, you sure about that now?
Utah Jazz. I am pretty confident.
You're worse than Charles Barkley.
Unless you guys are lying to me.
Should we steal that segment? No, he plays for the Jazz. Not the Suns,
yeah.
which you originally thought.
According to Rich, he was just traded over from the Suns. He was playing with Chris Paul, and he came over and was like, you know what, the Jazz needs help, so I'm gonna do my thing over here from now on.
Yeah, Suns playing all these injured teams, they don't need any help, so Donovan Mitchell went to the Jazz.
Right. So anyway, yeah, Donovan Mitchell. I think Austin, you brought this up, really kind of worked his way into being one of those maybe top 10, maybe top 15 players in the entire National Basketball Association. Obviously got his team off to two wins to start the series, and now they've kind of gotten it tied up. Actually kind of 2 bad losses the last couple. But how do you guys see that series going, and what do you think about Donovan Mitchell?
I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell's incredible. I think he's super underrated, even from his rookie year when he got the Jazz, helped get the Jazz to the playoffs, and they beat the Thunder with Paul George and Russell Westbrook. 2 notable playoff chokers, but still, nonetheless, this guy's been pretty much immediately effective in the playoffs. And I think all regular season people sleep on him because he's got pretty mediocre numbers for a star player. He usually puts up, like 25, 5, and 5, which a lot of guys in the NBA do these days. So it's easy for him to kind of fall by the wayside in that like shooting guard spot with guys like Zach LaVine and Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, stuff like that. But I think what sets him apart is similar to Damian Lillard. He plays on kind of a small market team where he's in the spotlight. He's expected to carry a lot of the scoring load, and he does it when it matters. I think when it comes to ranking like the best players in the league, how they perform in the playoffs matters so much. So a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has like 2 MVPs, a lot of people consider maybe like a top 3 best player in the league. That's a guy who to me falls out of the top 5 at times when he gets shut down by teams because of his inability to hit free throws or jump shots, or guys like Ben Simmons who also seem to struggle more in the playoffs. Guys like Donovan Mitchell elevate their game in the playoffs. I saw a statistic where among players that had played 25 playoff games, the only 2 guys who average more points a game than Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs that have played at least 25 playoff games are LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Those guys are Hall of Famers, champions, finals MVPs, and then Donovan Mitchell's right there ahead of Anthony Davis and some other really great players. So, yeah, I think it's cool that this is finally his coming out. But in my opinion, he's kind of been a star for a while now. I think people have really been sleeping on this guy, just looking at his regular season numbers and saying that he's, just kind of an everyday, fringe all-star kind of player, and not really seeing what this guy's capable of when it matters. And I'm really happy to see him playing well again and backing me up, because I've been saying it all year that, watch out, this guy's going to be explosive again in the playoffs. And he's had 3 games over 35 points in this series alone. I think he has more 40-point games than any Jazz player, which is crazy when in the playoffs, that is, which is crazy when you consider Karl Malone, and he's the second all-time scorer in regular season history and a playoff performer who's got his team to the finals twice. I think the dude's been remarkable. I think he's easily been the most underrated player in the NBA of the past year or so, in my opinion.
Who was it? It was Shaq, right? That told him that I think you're a good player, but you're never going to be a superstar or something like that in an interview.
I don't remember that. That's hilarious.
You should look that up. I think, I believe it. Yeah, I'm like 99% sure it was Shaq who, in a post-game interview in which he like dropped like 40 points and like hit a game winner, Shaq just gets on and is like, "Hi, Donovan, it's Shaq. I've been saying this for a while. I think you're a great player, but you're not a superstar." And Donovan Mitchell literally just goes, "Okay," and doesn't say.
I do remember that.
And he doesn't say anything else. And Shaq's like, "That's all you got to say to me." And he's like, "I don't know what else to say. What else do you say to that?" So if you haven't seen that, go look it up, because it's kind of funny. But
I do remember that.
But yeah,
that is such a good response. What are you supposed to say? Just like, I disagree completely.
So I think he's definitely kind of proven Shaq wrong, because I think he's having a hell of a playoff once again.
I just think if you look at a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who's I think 24 years old, and then you look at a guy like Damian Lillard, who's like 30, considered this clutch big shot maker, this guy that everybody thinks is, a top 10 player, just like this really phenomenal player. I just think Donovan Mitchell is as good, if not better. So I don't really understand why he's not been in the discussion until now. This dude is just a younger version of Damian Lillard, and I think he's every bit as good in every conceivable way.
I mean, I don't think the Jazz even come close to. I mean, maybe they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they come close to a number 1 seed without him. Not even.
No way. Yeah. No. I mean, they lost game 1 to the Grizzlies without him. Like a lot of people slept on that too. Like they lost to a team that people didn't even expect to make the playoffs. They had to win 2 games in the play-in tournament just to make the playoffs. And they fucking lost to that team without Donovan Mitchell. So that's how integral he is to them.
That's what I'm saying.
They're missing Mike Conley, and he's carrying them to wins against the Clippers. He, I think, got a little banged up in game 3, and it cost them the game in a blowout fashion. So, yeah, it's really important that he's out there. He's crucial for them. A guy that probably deserved an MVP vote or 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, game 3 was an absolute blowout, and then they lost pretty badly in game 4 as well, which is why I'm sticking with my Clippers in the series, because that's who I called in the first place. So I don't really know which team I'm rooting for. I mean, I feel weird rooting for any team from LA, but I guess if it had to be one, it would be the Clippers for sure over the Lakers. And I would rather probably see a smaller market team like the Jazz go. But since I picked the Clippers, I am kind of pulling for them a little bit more. And I do think the Clippers,
they're so frustrating.
Now that they have the momentum, I think they do come back and win this series. But they always seem to do this, right? They lose.
They always choke, yeah.
They always seem to lose it. And even if in series they won, we saw it in the last series, they always like go down in the series, and then they have to fight back if they're gonna win it. So,
Yeah,
but I see them doing it again. I think they'll do it, and I think it'll be them and the Suns, and that'll be an interesting matchup. So
I think the Suns may be able to go to the finals, as much as I hate to say it. I just think, they've had the most rest. I think their biggest issue is experience and rest. I think their younger players have now experienced 2 playoff series, and they've got them done fairly quickly. They took care of the Lakers in 6, albeit injured, and they swept the Nuggets. So they've got tons of time for Chris Paul to rest. And as long as he's out there, I think that team's composure will probably carry them to the finals, as much as I hate to say it. As long as Chris Paul has enough rest and is healthy and is out there to lead them, I think
Chris Paul and Devin Booker are 2 guys that could win our fantasy the final, or not finals, but the whole playoff MVP award that we've talked about for weeks, that we wish was an actual award that's not actually won. Obviously, they have the finals MVP.
Donovan Mitchell could be
I would think for me, it would come down to one of those 3 guys at this point, for sure. Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, or Devin Booker. They're all 3 of them are playing really well right now, and I don't think their teams do well without. If any of those guys aren't playing right now, I don't think their teams are going to do well or even come close to winning their series.
And I think what's interesting is Chris Paul and Devin Booker seem to have a great feel for who's on in a given night and getting them the ball and kind of backing off and coasting and having more of an average game by their standards. But I think what's crazy about Donovan Mitchell is that he doesn't have anybody he can do that with. Even when Mike Conley's healthy, this is a guy who just has to score 30 for them to be in the game, for them to even have a chance at winning the game.
Yeah.
Like, I think he scored 37 in this last game and they got blown out. So it's like, it doesn't even, like, this guy has to show up, and he does. He can't put up 18 or 22 points like the way Chris Paul and Devin Booker can. That his team can't afford for him to do that. So I think that's what makes him so valuable. He has to rise to the occasion. He's not part of a 1-2 offensive punch. You could say him and Gobert are a bit of a 1-2 punch, but Gobert gets it done on the defensive end. As far as the scoring goes, it's all Donovan Mitchell. Like, some other guys that can chip in and score a little bit. Jordan Clarkson was the 6th man of the year. He can score a little bit, but as far as, like, true pressure kind of shots, taking the scoring load on, taking the game over, like, it's just Donovan Mitchell. He has to do it every game if they want to win.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. So, Rich, who do you have winning this series, I guess?
This series, I have the Jazz winning the Clippers. Like, they drive me like insane because everyone just talks about like how great and dominant they are and all these things, like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and it's just like, how do you just drop 2 games? Like, when they lose, they look like complete shit. Like, it's like they don't even show up. It's like, oh, I guess we'll just be lazy and just drop a game, and it's just like, no, just
says the guy that was defending LeBron James for always losing game 1. Wasn't it you a couple weeks ago that you're like, oh, but he's smart, he's just feeling him out, so losing game different. 1 doesn't matter.
LeBron James at least shows up when he loses game 1. I will defend him for a second, even though I'm not a big fan of him. But you look at Paul George, and they won 2 straight games in this series, and all it took was Paul George scoring 30 twice. You're an all-star player. If you can't get 30 2 times in a playoff series, like, he should do that at least twice every playoff series, like, score 30 points. And when they do, they win. Like, and it's that simple. Like, if he's just able to score the ball and show up, they win. Like, there's no way Donovan Mitchell could play the way Paul George has played and be tied 2-2 in the series right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, there's no way he could have these awful games where he goes like 1 of 11 or something. If Donovan Mitchell goes like 1 for 11 to start a game, they're not winning. They're going to lose by like 30 points.
Sure. No, I agree. I just see somehow, some way, probably in game 7, Clippers come out again, but I don't really even see them going to the finals. And if they do, I feel like the winner's coming out of the East, regardless. I think it should be the Nets at this point, but even if it's the 76ers or whatnot, I feel like
The Bucks,
the winner's probably going to be there.
I think it'll be the winner of the Bucks or Nets series that wins the championship.
I could definitely see that. The
76ers, barring no catastrophic injuries, but yeah, I mean, someone told me Joel Embiid's meniscus is not good. That series is tied 2-2. I can't really see them losing to the Hawks, but I mean, it's
I don't either.
Playoffs given the injuries and stuff. If they lose to the Hawks, I don't think the Hawks have a chance against the Nets or the Bucks, and I think that'll probably be like a quick 4 or 5 game series to whoever gets through that series, and then at that point, like those teams are so loaded. If they have rest to rehab their injuries and nagging injuries and stuff and get prepped for whoever's coming out of the West, like I can't see Clippers or Jazz versus Suns not going 6 games. Whereas if the Hawks can get by the Sixers, I think both the Nets and the Bucks would beat that team in 4 or 5 games.
No, I agree. I think at this point, it's going to be the winner of that series that wins everything, to be honest. But to me, I think it's going to be the Nets. But I guess we'll see. But moving on, talking about a different playoffs that's still going on. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the NHL. What do you guys think about what's going on there?
Go ahead, Rich.
I was just say right now it's the New York Islanders versus the Lightning. Lightning are up 1-0 right now, and it's the Golden Knights against the Canadiens. And I'm still keeping the Golden Knights to win it all because I said that earlier. And I believe even though the Lightning are down in the series right now by a game, I think the Stanley Cup's going to be the Lightning versus the Golden Knights.
Go back like 10 pods. I think that was my hockey prediction from like mid-season was Golden Knights versus the Lightning.
It's a good prediction. I thought the Avalanche were going to be better, and they really disappointed me. They totally collapsed against the Knights. I mean, granted, that was the hardest matchup any team could have in this.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Like those two teams were could beat a lot of the other teams that were still alive at that point in the playoffs. So it's a shame to see either one of those teams get knocked out, but I'm not surprised to see the Knights beat them. That's a team that was capable of beating them and that I thought was also a contender. It's a shame they drew each other so early in the bracket the way it shook out. But I got to say, dude, I got a weird feeling that it's going to be Islanders versus Vegas Knights, and the Vegas Knights will win.
I don't see it.
Well, what's your opinion there, Adam?
Because didn't the Islanders just steal game 1 on the road? So they don't have to win another road game for the rest of the series. They don't need to win tonight. The Lightning need to win tonight, and they're only up 1-0.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, obviously the Islanders easily could take it because they're up 1-0 already, but I don't see it happen. I think the Lightning fight back and win this series. And I still sticking with what I called like a month or two ago. I think it's going to be the Lightning versus the Knights. And if it ends up there, for some reason, I feel like the Lightning will probably beat the Knights, even though I like the Knights as a team better. But I don't really see him winning it this year for some reason.
Oh man,
I don't know why.
I disagree. I think it's going to be the Golden Knights in 5.
I agree. I think the Knights, if you look at them, from top to bottom, they have a great roster, and I think they could be the most well balanced team.
Any style of play. They played like a defensive stranglehold series in the opening series against the Wild. They scored 6 goals to close out the Avs, who are like lightning fast, offensive team. And then now they're going to go and face like a hot goaltender and see if they can beat a team that's like anchored on their goaltender. I think they'll be able to do that too. They can play so many different styles. I think they're the team.
If you look at them on paper, if you look at them on film, I think the answer is the Golden Knights win it. But there's just something in my head saying the Lightning are going to win another Stanley Cup this year. So
Lightning are a great team too, and they're balanced top to bottom. Also, I just think some of their past chokes just make me always doubt that core, and they have health issues too. It seems like Kucherov or Stamkos are always hurt. I know you don't see guys going down constantly as much in hockey the way you do in basketball, but I mean those guys weren't healthy to start the playoffs, and it's not unbelievable to think that one or two of those guys could be injured before this thing is all said or done. Having to grind through.
If there's one sport that knows how to play through injuries, it's the NHL. It's hockey.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one sport that doesn't know how to play through injuries, it's
soccer.
Basketball or soccer.
Yeah. Or the baseball pitcher. just the pitcher though, and then we'll throw other basketball and stuff in there. It's the only baseball pitcher and basketball players are literally the only players I've ever heard of that have missed games for broken nails. There's that pitcher that didn't play because he got like his nail ripped off, and it happened in basketball too. The person, like, I don't remember what they did. They like slammed their hand in a car door or something, and their nail fell off, and they're like, "Well, I can't play tonight."
I mean, I could see it. You really need your fingertips for those sports. Like, not so much basketball, but for a pitcher, you like if your right hand is hurt and you're a pitch, like I would play on a broken leg before I'd play on a broken finger.
Their finger positioning in baseball for a pitcher is so important.
Because like even if they're trying to be a warrior and go out there, I agree with Rich. They could throw like a bunch of shitty pitches and like you could blink and be down like.
Come on, it's a finger.
Get that guy in.
I have my finger positioning is very important too, but I still get the job done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
even with the broken finger,
I am not getting into this argument with you. We are going to go into the 2-minute drill off that. We got the 2-minute drill today. Adam's doing the 2-minute drill.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
After missing last week, you're just going to throw me into the wolves right like that?
Well,
Before the pod, Adam was like, I really want to do it. And not be like,
well, I regret my decision
here it
now.
is. It's me again.
I regret my decision.
I do it, but I wrote half the questions.
All right. So
it would be easy. Maybe you would finally win one.
I'd probably still lose.
So
my questions are hard.
Austin, can you start a timer for me and let me know when to go?
Okay, I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, and then start it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Is competitive cheerleading a sport?
I really don't think it's a sport, but I do think it is. I think it's something you need athletic talent for, but I don't think it's a sport because there's no physical contact of player on player, and that's important to me. So I'm going to go with no. Although I do think you do need talent to do it, and I'm not going to take that away from cheerleaders.
All right. Who is making it to the NBA Finals?
I already talked about it. I think it's going to be, man, I'm going to go with the Clippers.
1 minute, 30 seconds.
And I'm going to go with the Nets, and Nets over Clippers.
Okay. What organized team activity would you do to boost team chemistry on your Beer Olympics squad?
Hugs and ass slaps. 100%.
All right. Is fishing a real sport?
No, again, there's no competitive, or it is competitive, but there is no interaction of physical player on player contact. So I'm going to say no.
Okay. Who starts more games this year, Andy Dalton or Justin Fields?
I'm going to go with Andy Dalton, although I'm not happy about it. But yeah, I think Andy Dalton plays at least the first 8. So
50 seconds.
Okay. How many touchdowns is Allen Robinson going to have on the season?
12. Exactly 12 for number 12.
All right. That's all 6. How much time does he have left?
There's 36 seconds left. What a beatdown.
All right. So Adam answered all those pretty quickly.
It's a masterful performance.
All right.
Yeah.
So apparently we have to ask harder questions for Adam. And
I asked some hard questions. You copied one of my questions, which made it super easy. And then you asked him like 2 Bears questions, didn't you? Or one of the Bears questions was mine.
Yeah.
I gave him one easy question, and then I gave him one funny question, and then I gave him one really hard, I thought, question that was like at least would catch him off guard, but he actually weathered it super well.
Either way, Adam, you will see.
That cheerleading question was mine. I was like, and I guess you knew that was coming too, because I accidentally typed "is racing a sport" in the chat, and I changed it.
But I would say the same thing for racing as a bonus question.
I don't think racing is a sport. I think competitive cheerleading is a sport. I don't think racing is a sport. It'll get me punched, but
I'm going to correct you on that one. In college, I took kinesiology, and for kinesiology, physically wise, NASCAR drivers go through the most, like through their body with energy and everything like that, from how hot the car gets the entire time and all the G-force that they're dealing with to where, like, from a pure scientific standpoint, a NASCAR driver is a better athlete than all the other sports based off of what their body goes through for that, like, 2-3 hours of driving in that vehicle.
I'll just say this, though. I've seen professional athletes who play in some of the major sports or play extreme sports transition to racing and do fine. But I've never seen a race driver like pick up a basketball or a baseball bat and be effective. Like, I've seen Travis Pastrana who can backflip a fucking dirt bike, which is a sport, by the way. Actually, he can double backflip a fucking full-size dirt bike back in his prime. And I've seen that guy hop in a car and like figure that shit out within a year and like win.
Yeah, but he also knows how to drive. He's been on.
But I've also seen Michael Jordan. I've seen Michael Jordan like buy a motorcycle team and learn to race and shit. So like, I've seen guys who don't even do anything similar to that be able to figure it out. But I've never seen a race car driver participate in one of the 4 major sports and be effective.
Yep. I think I'm not saying it's not hard on your body. But
it's super hard, but it's not.
I'm saying you could like, you can like, crush me under 1,000 pounds of sand. It'll be uncomfortable. It'll be hard on my body, but I don't have to be athletic to do it. So I don't think you need athletic skill. I've never seen any of these people.
If I had one
sprint,
if I had one athlete, or if I had one person that like was a professional at something competing in like every major sport and there was a racer in it, I think they'd come in dead last because I think those skills translate to the least amount of other sports than any other sport. So even if it is a sport, it's so fucking different than anything else that like I don't think any of it really translates to anything else.
I'm just telling you what I learned in class.
Maybe
for
some
science,
hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, but this is literally why learning things in school doesn't mean shit in the real world. Like you don't like that doesn't matter at all.
A school sport?
Yeah.
No, yeah. It literally, you can learn all the information you want in school, and then you come out and 90% of the information you use is
I hear it
wrong.
Adam's endorsing, and Adam is anti-school and he's endorsing it. You heard it here first on the pod, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Adam's anti-school.
Do drugs, not school.
Oh my God. Okay, on that note.
Yeah, on that note, we'll leave you
to bye, fans. Please do not do drugs. That is
Jesus Christ.
The opinions of our
We got Nets Bucks, 2 minutes. We did it.
All right.
Guys, this podcast will be up in 2 minutes because it'll be completely irrelevant if it's not. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Later, everyone.
See you, fans.